All righty. So hopefully now you see this lovely picture of a ship and up there in Alaska. And I actually kind of have to brag because this was the picture on my cruise to Alaska in July this year. Look at the seas, how flat they are. It was brilliant. So I just kind of have to brag on that. But anyway, officially, allow me to welcome you to this evening's presentation. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Silver Sea Wine Cruise hosted by Paul Wagner and Stephen and Jill Klein-Matthiasson. We're just grateful that everyone can be with us today. And thank you to, of course, to our past guests who are with us. I saw a couple of your faces and names there. We do appreciate that. We want to make sure for the rest of you that you know that we are not a call center. Our luxury wine team, our group of highly trained professionals ready to take care of all of your needs for your vacation. And we do want to hear from you throughout this presentation. So please take the time to locate where the chat box is down there at the bottom. And you're welcome to type any questions that you have. We do ask that you remain muted throughout the program. And at the end, we're going to open it up again, and then you'll be able to ask any questions that you have. And to get us started, I'm delighted to be here as one of your hosts. My name is KK Affray. I'm the VP of Sales for Expedia Cruises and Expedia WineClub Cruises. And I'd just like to take a moment to introduce our wine hosts who are live with us here. First up is our wine expert. He's the one that I love to pester with all of my wine questions. Paul Wagner. Paul, are you there?
I'm here. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to joining Steve and Jill on the cruise. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We're so grateful for you to be here. And of course, our man of the hour, the one who's responsible for these amazing wines that we're tasting. We have, where are you? There you are, Steve Matthiasson. There you are. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. It's really fun, that it's actually coming together and getting real now. It's going to be a blast. And for now, everyone should open up Chardonnay and start and enjoy a glass of that while we go through the learn about the cruise, and then I'll talk about the wines a little bit later.
Yeah, good.
That sounds great. Oh, thank you. Well, I am a huge Alaska fan, been many, many times, but I was fortunate enough to take this exact sailing in July. So if you hear some passion and excitement come through my voice, it's because this whole presentation is taking me right back there. So your cruise is going to start in Vancouver and end in Seward. So you're going to be going north up through the Inside Passage up to these wonderful little ports of call. And I have to tell you that going north, in my opinion, is the only way to sail this itinerary, because what happens is Alaska just kind of unfolds as you go north. So you're going to begin with the little fishing villages and seeing the bald eagles up in the trees. And then you come to the small towns before you come to these great ports of call along the way. So the first part will be the Inside Passage. And this is where you're going to see you're going to see some of the porpoises. You're going to see, again, those small lumber towns. There's the fishing villages. And really, if you can imagine that there's going to be mountains coming up on both sides of the passage. It is strikingly beautiful. And it gets me just excited every time I go through there. Our first port.
KK, we start in Vancouver, right?
You do start in Vancouver, yes.
Because that is one of the great food and wine cities on the planet. And I know I'm planning to arrive a couple of days early just so I can go out to dinner in a couple of our favorite restaurants in Vancouver.
I wish I were there, but yes, Vancouver is one of my favorite cities. So I encourage everyone always to come in a couple of days early. It's always a fun thing to do. Great idea. Our first port of call here is going to be Ketchikan. And Ketchikan is the salmon capital of the world, and it's best known for the feisty salmon, the idyllic scenery, and amazing native Alaskan culture. You can visit the Saxman Native Village, and you can... I really love this part. You can actually learn how they choose the tree that will become the totem. They tell these tales. It's the indigenous tribes that share this information with you. And then you can actually see them carve the totem. And it's all done by hand. It's really beautiful. You can kayak the Tatoosh Islands. This is exactly where I expect to see Paul. It is a stunning, idyllic, beautiful trip out there. Again, you're going to see with the shore excursions available that there's something a little bit for everyone. everyone. So if you want this to be adventure, if you want this to be relaxing, if you want it to be easy, something like this is the Lumberjack Show in Ketchikan, and you get to sit back and laugh and watch the fun. It really is a blast. And of course, when they do that log dance on the logs in the water, and one of them falls in the water, it's just, yeah, like I said, way too much fun. Then we're off to Juneau, of course, the capital of Alaska. There's such a multitude of things to do and see here. Really popular are the famed gardens where the flowers grow in the roots of the upside down trees. Or of course, you can do like I did here and take the helicopter flight and you land on the Mendenhall Glacier. This is a picture of my son and I when we were on the Silver MUSE here in July. It's just a spectacular experience. Our helicopter pilot was also a geologist, so he was really able to take us through the rock formations and understanding how the ice flows, how the glacier flows down, and it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant is all I can say. Of course, then one of my favorite must-dos out of Juneau is the whale watching excursion, and it goes way up into the inlets where the humpback whales are known to show off, and they do this bubble net feeding, and it's really, really cool. In this particular case, there were two of the boats, and believe it or not, the whales came up right in between them. It was simply spectacular. And you know how close you are when you can smell their fishy breath. It's really bad, but it's really cool at the same time. And then, of course, we are on to Skagway, which is gateway to the Yukon. While you're in Skagway, you can do many things, but one of my favorites is to take the train. It's called the White Horse Pass Railroad, and it takes you up over the pass into Canada, and you're going to really follow in the steps of those in the gold rush, right? And you're going to hear just some amazing stories. I remember the story of Soapy Smith, and you get to go over these old trestle train bridges. Just brilliant. A lot of fun things to do when you're in Skagway.
If you're going to do that, KK, if you're going to do that, you should absolutely check out the Charlie Chaplin movie about the Great Gold Rush up there, where there's an amazing scene of him eating a shoe. So later on, I'm gonna ask Steve to recommend which of his wines he would pair
with a shoe.
With a shoe when you're starving on the road to the Yukon.
So, any of them, whatever one is closest.
Whichever is closest, that works. Well, great. So here we are in Sitka. This is probably one of my absolute favorite ports of call. And what's interesting is that the big cruise ships can't go to Sitka. So you're going to find fewer people. It's really a great opportunity. There's a lot of things to do and see here. And one of my favorites is going to the Sitka Raptor Center. And this is where they rehabilitate and then release these magnificent species back into the wild. You get up close and personal to these eagles. And of course, everyone has to stand there and measure their own wingspan. It's just kind of the thing to do. You can also take a walk through Totem Park. Again, that's one of my personal pictures. That's me and my son standing next to one of the totems, so you can see just how tall it is. He's 6'4.5". So you can tell that that totem is really, really tall. And yet it's placed very specifically for it to tell a story. And so when you read the little postings about each one, it really makes it very personal. It's a great, great walk. There's a viewpoint at the end that's simply brilliant. Some of the trails were closed for us because, there was bear activity. And this little guy here, his name is Chake, and he is one of the three brothers that's currently in residence at the Fortress of the Bear Sanctuary. And I will tell you that this sanctuary where they take care of refugee orphaned cubs is so brilliant. You get relatively close up, but they are really cared for in a natural environment. It's an awesome experience. So if you have the chance to go to the Fortress of the Bear, I highly recommend it. You could even pop onto their website to see some of the things that they do there. And then, of course, One of the main reasons that everyone wants to go to Alaska is to see glaciers. Silver Muse can go so much farther up the passage than the big ships. This picture is actually one of the ones that I took in July. Notice how the ice flow is right there. And those little black things that you see on the ice, those are all the seals with their pups. And it was fascinating to learn that the whales don't like to go up there because of all the silt in the water because of the glaciers. And so they feel safe. So they were just sprawled all over the place, relaxing. And you could just, so imagine that all of a sudden it gets silent. The whole ship goes silent. And in that quiet, you suddenly hear the crack. And then as you hear the crack, everybody's just eyes are glued on the glacier. And then you hear the rush and whoosh, as it goes down into the water. It's just spectacular. So this is one of those special things. And of course, on Silver Muse, we get to do it so much more up close and personal than we would on any other ship. Then our ship is going to head up to our port where we disembark, and this is called Seward. And Seward is they consider it the port for anchorage. But what's really neat is that this is also, the glacier comes right down close to the port actually. And as you sail in, you're really sailing kind of into almost a passageway to get into Seward. This is the Kenai Peninsula. And it is breathtaking. All the views everywhere around you, you can look anywhere and it's simply brilliant. So of course, if you are just getting off to go home, you'll have a transfer into Anchorage where you can go home. And many of you are going to be taking the post land tour option that will take you up to Denali National Park, another awesome experience that I can talk to any of you about if you'd like. But of course, your home during this journey is Silversea Cruises Silver Muse. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this ship because when I say that she's small, I love that Steve asked this question earlier. She doesn't look very small when we take these close-up pictures of her, but there's only 596 guests. When you consider that the average cruise ship, not the largest, but the average cruise ship in Alaska carries 2,900 passengers, we are 2,000 passengers less, right? So very few, and with that comes lots of space. It's again, a great opportunity to be on such a small ship up there. She's really elegantly appointed, spacious, lots of amenities. You can really enjoy the relaxed atmosphere and be pampered all in the same moment. Silversea is unlike traditional cruising, and so it's really difficult to put into words. I think the best I can do is to tell you that it's an attitude of service where everyone knows your name by the second day and the crew genuinely take pleasure from seeing you enjoy your vacation. It is a different type of experience. It's also very inclusive. And that's important to look at because when we look at the cruise fares, you would say, oh, I've seen Alaska cruises advertised for less. Yes, but by the time you add everything in, you're going to find that you would probably even save money. So this is an all-inclusive experience. What does that mean? That means that you're going to get your economy airfare to Vancouver and back from Anchorage. You're going to get transfers. In every single port of call, you will have a complimentary shore excursion. And I did a quick look, and there's somewhere between 13 and 15 different shore excursions that you can choose. All of the ones that I showed today, except for the helicopter, are all on the included list. So those would be great. Any of those are ones that you could choose to look at. And there is a butler service for every room because all rooms on the entire ship are suites. And many people come to me and they say, well, I don't know what I would do with a butler. I was one of those until, of course, I got on board and our butler asked, would you like us to bring you caviar and champagne every day at 6? I was in. I thought, okay, I know exactly what to do with my butler now. And little things that I really didn't anticipate, but truthfully enjoyed. We went out tromping one day. We got our shoes kind of dirty. I left them out on the veranda, didn't think anything of it. We went to dinner and everything. We came back from dinner. Our shoes, even including my hiking boots, were cleaned, meticulously, wrapped in tissue paper with a little note on them saying, ready for tomorrow. And it was just, and I didn't ask, they were just things that they did that made our experience so absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, you're going to have all of the beverages included. You're going to have the specialty dining, all your gratuities. Really, the best part about this experience is that there's no nickel and diming. It's just done, right? So let's look at these wonderful accommodations. They're all suites. So you're going to notice that this is what's called the Vista suite. This is the least expensive stateroom on the ship, and it's still absolutely brilliant. If this were to be the entry-level veranda stateroom, instead of where those windows are that you see there, those would be the doors that open out onto your deck. And this one, by comparison, this is a silver suite. Again, there's not that much difference in the price, but all of a sudden you're expanding to a tremendous amount of space. You have a dining room table. They will serve you course by course from any of their restaurants in your own suite, no matter which suite you have. Again, they just want to take care of you. And of course, the dining options are so varied and magnificent on the ship. So enjoy the French cuisine in La Dame. She's a tiny little restaurant with only 24 guests. The Italian themed La Terrazza, loved that one. Really unique experience awaits in the outdoors grill, where they bring you a 500-degree lava stone and you cook your own selection of meats and seafoods right on the table. So much fun. Kaiseki is kind of a teppanyaki style. And then, of course, there's the Asian Indian fusion food of Indochine. And it's such a delight for the senses. The special curries they have, just simply brilliant. Silver Note is a jazz dinner club, and you're going to have a special experience in there that I can't tell you about, but I'm very excited for you. You're going to be able to in there have, well, again, the only secret I'll let you know is that there's live entertainment with your dinner, and the choices simply abound. There's also lots of great smaller venues. This one is the Arts Cafe. And if you can imagine that every morning, crack of dawn, because I'm an early bird, so I was up there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they had fresh mineral and vitamin waters. Not the stuff that we buy in the can. No. They were adding different minerals. They were making special vitamin waters with different fruits and vegetables. There were smoothies, small bites made fresh every morning. And then in the afternoon, it turns into this delectable dessert bites and chocolates that they keep throughout the afternoon and the evening. I must admit that I visited there more than one time. So
how much weight did you lose on the cruise, KK?
Do you know that I actually did lose a pound? And that's because I was having so much fun that I walked everywhere. And I loved the fact that I could cater any of my meals to say, you know what, I'm going to skip the bread, or I'm maybe going to have this or that. And they were happy to accommodate. But yes, I did indulge, and I had a great time. So with that, I'm going to ask you to enjoy a quick 30-second video of what we experienced in Alaska this summer. And let's hope that you can all hear this as I play, and this is what's waiting for you next year. Well, I'm excited to say that that's exactly what it felt like. It was so fantastic. And we did on our cruise, even for the first time ever, get a full breach like that out of the water of the whales. Simply brilliant. But now I'm even more excited to tell you that we've come to the part that you're probably all eagerly awaiting for. I hope you enjoyed that little piece about Silversea, but now we want to talk wine. So can I please invite Paul? Would you like to join us to tell us a little bit about the wine experience that we're going to have on board?
Sure. And first of all, I want to say how much fun it is to be working with Steve Matthiasson on this cruise, because he makes absolutely wonderful wine. And I've long been a fan of his. And so just having him on board is going to make this that much better. We start when you get on board. First day, we'll have a welcome aboard reception. And that's your chance to play Stump the Chumps. where you come up to us and ask us all sorts of questions that you've always wondered about wine, and anything I don't know the answer to, I'll just tell you to go talk to Steve because he'll make something up. But we have, it's just a chance to drink some wine, get to know everybody. We'll all introduce ourselves. One of the things that's sort of fun is our group will only be a percentage of the people on the ship, of course. But one of the things that happens is we will start to get a reputation on the ship. Sometimes we'll have dinner in the main dining room and people will look over and wonder, who are those guys and why do they have all that great wine and what's going on over there? And it's wonderful fun as you meet other folks on the cruise to say, oh yeah, well, we had 4 different wines for dinner last night, and the following night we're going out to dinner in this restaurant and we're all going to have dinner together. And so welcome aboard reception, getting to know each other. We will do 3 educational seminars. Once you hear Steve talk, you will understand that when we say educational seminar, we are not talking about pop quizzes at the end. We're talking about really just having fun with wine and exploring some of the stuff that we've learned over the years about wine and sharing that with you and having you not only challenge us, but sometimes correct us on, it doesn't taste like green beans to me, it tastes like chili peppers. And you know what? You're right. So we'll do 3 different educational seminars. Probably one will certainly deal with Steve's wine, and then we'll put together a couple of others. We will have 3 wine and food pairing dinners where we actually work with one of the chefs on board, sit down, taste the wines, talk to them, and develop a menu specifically for the wines that we're serving you at 3 different dinners. And one of them will be in the Jazz Club. And then at the end of it all, we'll have a chance to get together one last time and have one more glass of wine and again, answer any of those questions you have, but mainly just get to know you and get to feel that we're all part of one big happy family that's had a great time on the cruise. And I think it's about time we had an educational wine seminar, Steve. So I'm thinking that maybe from here, we should go to letting you talk about the Linda Vista Vineyard Chardonnay, which, as I told Steve today, I cheated. I opened it up last night because my wife had made this delicious chicken and a mushroom cream sauce. And we popped the cork on the Matthiasson Chardonnay, and it was absolutely stunning. So tell us about it, Steve.
Okay, so you made this comment about how your wife, is a chef, and she doesn't tend to go for California Chardonnays because she's looking for wine. I can complete your sentence on that one, that complements the food and enlivens the food and is bright, and that's what we're about. So our Chardonnay we make about 15 different wines, so different varieties of wine. So Chardonnay just being one of them. But Chardonnay is something that we take so seriously because it's something that everybody knows what Chardonnay tastes like, they think. But Chardonnay actually has a really long history, and it's one of the really great wines of the world that just that can go extremely well with food. But it's a variety that some people call it a winemaker's variety because you can do different things with it. You can take it can willingly go in different directions, and so lately, I'm going to say lately, the last 20, 30 years, maybe 20 years, really, the direction that it was taken in many cases was the bigger is better direction. So we take it back in a previous style that was more the historical style of Chardonnay, and really try to find the other side of the personality of the Chardonnay that lifts food. Yep. And so,
and Steve, this comes right from your vineyard there at the winery, right?
Yeah, this is just right behind where behind these redwood trees, 2 vineyards over is the Chardonnay in the southern part of the Napa Valley. So the vineyard was planted back in the 1980s, and we were able to get our hands on it in 2011. So we farm these grapes ourselves, and that's that bottom bullet point that says estate grown, organically farmed is a really big deal for us, and it actually explains a lot about all of our wines. This is our 27th harvest as making wine, but the first 10 of them were as home winemakers while we were actually working in sustainable agriculture and local food in Northern California. So I was working in agriculture, helping grape growers reduce their pesticide use and be more sustainable. And my wife was actually working for a nonprofit that was trying to save family farms. And it was really a big part of the Bay Area local food movement back in the 90s, when farmers markets weren't so common, and chefs weren't buying directly from farmers as much as they do now. And so we kind of, when we decided to go commercial, I guess, and take our home winemaking in 2003 and do our first vintage to sell, it was coming from this perspective of local food, farm to table. That was our perspective. And so we've made a conscious decision. At first we were just trying to make wine we believed in, and then we realized, wow, that's really hard to sell wine you believe in. And so then we worked really hard at like figuring out how to make this crazy thing work. But we started getting some momentum, and it really kind of morphed into a mission, really, of trying to bring California wine back to the table. That Robert Mondavi used to talk about the wine for the table, and how wonderful it is when people gather around a table and share food and have a bottle of wine in the middle. And that's our whole vision with our wine is, so our wine, we don't submit it for scores. Our wine is in restaurants with, some of the best restaurants and best chefs in the world. We just found out that they're pouring our Linda Vista wine in it was just ranked the number 2 restaurant in the world in Copenhagen.
Oh yeah.
Geranium is pouring the Linda Vista wine by the glass. And so that means way more to us than it gets a certain numerical score. We don't buy into that. So we're trying to go old school and make really honest wines that work with food. And so and everything that we grow is organic. And so and it expands to our workforce, because we hear about here in California, you can't do it all yourself, and you have people that work in the fields, and every single one of our employees is full-time year round and lives in Napa with health benefits, education, everything. And it's all part of the value system behind our wines.
And if any of you have not heard of Matthiasson wines, I would suggest that you look up what people have written about Steve and Jill, because whereas he's right, there are people who only submit wines to scores and hope they get really high scores. I can't think of a major writer who has written about the Napa Valley in the last 5 to 10 years who hasn't said, sure, you need to taste some of the famous cabs and wines coming out of the Napa Valley, but there's somebody you may not have heard of who's doing some really remarkable stuff, and every single one of them has mentioned Steve Matthiasson. So to me, that's a wonderful endorsement of what he's doing. That if you've always heard of someone walking to a slightly different drummer and yet absolutely nailing it, that's what Steve and Jill are doing.
Those wine writers are lovers of food and wine, just like we are, and so they've been so supportive of us because they're with us on what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So tell us about the red wine, Steve.
Okay. So everyone has their great wine moment, right? That, like, what's that wine that just blows them away? And in many cases, people, so everyone has that moment. If you're into wine, for me, it was 1990 Mondavi Reserve Cabernet, and I'll never forget that. I was working down in Lodi, writing a workbook on sustainable practices, and we had a meeting up at Mondavi, and they said, "Hey, come back here and taste this wine when you're done." And it just kind of blew me away. And so it just seared into my head, this great Napa Cab from 1990. So the reason I bring that up is because, winemaking, as anything else, has changed over the decades. And we've learned so much in the last 30 years on how to make wine and how to grow grapes. Hardly anything was organic back in the 90s, for example, where I think that we're dealing with the climate and everything so much better. And there's so much we've learned on the vineyard side that I try to take all that we've learned on the farming, but go back to those great wines that like that first wine moment, or those early wines that I cut my teeth on, that had a different orientation, because in the 4th bullet point where I say savory herbs, that you don't taste herbs as much anymore in Cabernet. But that's one of the great things about Cabernet is it can have olive and tea and cedar, tobacco, and when that's with the fruit, it's this what makes your mouth water, and that's part of that wine and food experience.
Yep.
So the vineyards are basically what we do, we own 2 small vineyards, and then we rent 10 other vineyards that we farm. So we're farming a total of 12 vineyards, and they're in various parts of Napa, and each of the different parts of Napa, Cabernet has a different character. And so the Rutherford in this blend gives you that, to me, the more old school characters, the Rutherford dust they used to talk about, which is definitely, you can taste it. The kind of bright red cherry, and then Coombsville, which is a newer region further south, very volcanic soils, that gives you the black fruit and the structure and the power in the wine. And Oak Knoll is a very mild growing region. It's where I'm sitting now, where we have our Linda Vista Chardonnay, and we're right near the San Francisco Bay, and it's a slow ripening season. That gives you these nice soft fruits. And so the blend of those 3 areas is what makes this wine.
Cool. And tell me about the label, because that's when most people think of a wine label, they think of a chateau or something, but that's not a chateau on your label.
No, so both labels are images of the pruning shears, the shears that we use to prune the vines, or to clip the vines during the year when you're training the vines, or to harvest the fruit. Yep. And so that represents the craftsmanship. We've, like I said, mentioned my 27th harvest, and I still feel like start to scratch the surface, ancient craft, and it's constant learning, and it's an apprenticeship. Learning from other people, trying to pass it along, and it's all represented by the pruning shears.
Yeah. Also pays homage to those people who are out there in the vineyard doing the work, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This year
these wines are delicious.
Oh, thank you.
They are delicious. I hope that everyone is having a chance to give a sample. It's one of the most exciting parts of the day. I have to admit, I'm indulging here as you guys were speaking. That was wonderful. Thank you. That was really fun.
So, KK, what do you think of the wine?
I love both of them. And you're right. I'm not normally a big Chard person. I loved it. I was delightfully surprised. So thank you. They're both quite excellent. And now I'm really super jealous that I'm not going with you, but I want to, I love the kitty cat that's joining us. Yes, our fur babies are very, very important. So folks, I don't know if you have any
pest
questions.
Control there, Steve, is that the rodent control there?
He's in charge of rodent control.
I like that. Well, I know there are some questions that are already in the chat box. So I'm going to start with a few of those. And then, of course, as more come in, the first question that I see is, how formal is it on board? That's a great question. We're in Alaska. It's not very formal at all. You're going to find that coats and ties are not required. I did find a lot of men wore a jacket for dinner, but didn't see a lot of ties, no formal nights. And during the day, it's extremely casual because Alaska tends to be. I think you probably heard me mention my walking boots because I like to tromp around a little bit in the outdoors. But again, very casual on board. So I think you'll find it quite comfortable. Next question I see is, can you give us more information about the post-Denali tour? Yes, we can, although I think it might be easier for us to email it to you. I will quickly just tell you that it's a 4-night post tour that does go all the way up to Denali National Park. You do have an opportunity to see the Great Mountain itself, as well as some opportunities to see not only the wildlife, but the spectacular region on the way as you move further north into Alaska. So go ahead and I know the person who asked, I'll make sure that we email that to you. If anyone else is of interest, just give us a jingle and we have a PDF that we can send to you with more details or talk to you about it. Someone else is asking, is there an extra cost for the wine experience? So the price that you see is it. It's all inclusive. and that includes the wine experience. And you're going to find that it's actually less than what Silversea is selling the cruise for online. So it's all included, all the fantastic wine experiences that Paul and Steve described earlier, the wine dinners, the wine tastings, a lot of fun. I can imagine that traveling with these guys is going to be fun. We won't let the fur kitty on board, but everybody else will have a great time.
Well, and Steve, Berna had a question about the cab, that she says there's not a lot, she doesn't notice a lot of tannin bite in that wine. What's the story?
Yeah, and so and that's a great question. Is it going to be age worthy? It doesn't have a ton of tannin, and the answer is some of the balance is what makes a wine age worthy. So a lot of winemakers actually use that as an excuse. Well, yeah, I have all these tannins but with time, and it's sort of like a balanced wine ages and an imbalanced wine doesn't age. And so its freshness is another thing about age worthiness. And so when you taste a wine and it feels vibrant, it feels very alive, and you get the sense that, if I leave this on the counter, it'll still be good tomorrow. That's a age-worthy wine. And so really actually doesn't, it's a really good question, because everyone talks about tannin with age worthiness, but it actually doesn't have anything to do with tannin. It's more about the liveliness of the wine and the balance.
Yeah, another way to think about it, Berna, is that what happens when you slice open an apple? It starts to turn brown almost immediately. And what do people do on salad bars to keep the apple from turning brown? They just sprinkle a little lemon juice on it. The acidity of the lemon juice keeps the apple fresh. Acidity in wine does the same thing. This wine has some acidity to it. It keeps the fruit fresh, and it will not only age, it'll get even more attractive, much like Steve and I do.
There you go.
And I see that there's another wine related question. Marge is asking, will the other wines in the cruise experience follow the same winemaking principles?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part of that. Will the other winemaking?
No, will the other wines in the cruise experience follow the same winemaking principles?
Some will and some won't. We haven't confirmed everything that we're going to be doing on this cruise. I do know that we're going to have some wines that I think will very much fit into Steve's style. And I think we'll have some wines that'll be quite a contrast, and that'll be fun too. So we'll kind of do the best of both worlds, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And Berna, thank you for the question. When will we know what nights the dinners are so we can book some of the specialty restaurants on the other nights? Thank you for that question. We will make sure that that you have plenty of notice of when the wine dinners are. As a matter of fact, they're working on those right now. We're working on the schedule, so we should have those fairly soon. And then we'll be able to release them for you so that you can choose the other nights in the specialty restaurants. The nice thing is that with a small ship like this, I found it very, very easy. Even sometimes at the last minute when I needed to switch, I was able to switch and get alternate restaurants, specialty restaurants when I needed them. So I think that will be helpful to you.
Cool.
And then let's see, someone asked, how soon do we need to make reservations? Now I understand, I'll abbreviate that question. So really, I think that it's one of those situations where this is a small ship and it's filling up quickly. So we do have our space until November 30th. So that's when the 10% savings will expire. And of course, that's a significant savings. So if I were to answer that question directly, I would say make sure that you do it while there's still space and before November the 30th. And then someone asked, what is the weather like in Alaska during that time? Well, I'm thrilled to tell you that it's a hodgepodge. With Alaska, you're going to get a little bit of everything. You're going to find that there are days where you're going to be wishing that you brought a pair of shorts with you. And then there are other days that you're going to put on the jacket and the gloves. So it really, really does vary. But of course, this is the peak of the season. This is the peak of the best season. So I always say that bring a light jacket. Don't bring anything heavy. Bring a light jacket that's going to be waterproof, that you could layer underneath if you needed to. Bring some good walking shoes and a sense of adventure. Oh, and I also always bring a pair of gloves, because whether it be on the ship, love standing at the railing And you always want to end up putting your hands on the railing. If you don't have gloves with you, your fingers will get really cold. So,
and on a warm day, it allows you to hold the glass of wine in your hand, not have to worry about holding the stem, and it still won't warm up the Chardonnay if you're wearing gloves. So there's benefits all the way around.
I like that thinking, that's for sure. But yes, you are going to find, and you could very well get a rainy day. I have to quickly knock on wood here and say that it's never rained on me in Ketchikan, even though it's supposed to rain 364 days out of the year. I'll wish you my kind of luck in Ketchikan when you're there. Let's see, other questions that I can see in the chat box. No, I don't see any. Well, let's do this. Hopefully you've all jotted down our telephone number. You know how to reach us. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to invite anyone who would like to turn their cameras back on so we can say hello to each other. And if there are any other questions, we welcome you to unmute yourself and just wave at me, and I'll try to address your questions. If not, it sounds like maybe we've covered everything. Is that ever possible? I don't know.
Everyone's just happy and relaxed after having a couple glasses of wine.
Right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, thank you, Martha, for turning your camera on. Good to see you. Yes.
Hi, Martha. Good to see you. Is that Salmon Creek behind you? Yeah, cool.
Yes, it is at Salmon Creek, California,
Beautiful.
but I'm not there.
It's all right. It's Yosemite behind me, and I'm not there either. So
This is Napa.
And Cynthia, hello,
yeah, that
Cynthia.
really is Napa where Steve
Good to
is.
see you.
Yeah.
Oh, and it says Steph Green. So Steph, you're not alone. Oh, but we can't hear you. You're muted.
Hi, I'm David. We're from Southern Shores, North Carolina on the Outer Banks.
Oh, great. Wait. Where's the other couple from the Carolinas? There they are.
There
There's
is,
another
yeah.
couple that are waving to you from the other Carolinas.
Hi.
I like that. Very cool. Anybody else willing to show your faces? It's so good to see you all. That's awesome. Well, just know whether we can see you or not, we appreciate you being here. We hope that you enjoyed the wines.
Yeah.
And if you didn't order them beforehand, you're going to want to order them afterwards, because now you've seen how the rest of us are enjoying them. That's great.
Steve, I'll just say that this was my first time trying your wines, and they're gorgeous and so approachable. I just love the fact that this is the type of wine I can just throw on the table and have for dinner tonight. So beautiful.
Perfect. That's the idea, right? Wine's for drinking.
Yeah. And the good news is there's more.
There is more. Well, before we go, I encourage everyone to. Oh, yes, Berna, go ahead.
Will they be selling their wines on the ship and then shipping it, or no? Because we're in the US.
Right. So we can't do that on board the ship. The good news is that there will be an opportunity for the Matthiassons to share their information with you, and you can order and have it shipped to your home.
Yep.
Mhm.
If you do it right, Berna, you can order while you're on the ship, and when you get home, the wine will be waiting for you.
Sounds like a plan.
It does sound like a plan. Oh, well, for all of you who are on the screen, and for those who are not, I encourage you to raise a glass. And I'd like to say cheers to everyone. We're wishing you that you may enjoy. And Steve and Paul, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Cheers.
Thanks everyone for being here. Cheers,
Yep.
everybody.
Cheers.
And if you have any other questions, give us a jingle and we'd be happy to answer them for you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
Look
Good night.
forward to meeting everyone in person.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Will do.
Bye.